The S&P 500 and the Nasdaq finished at record closing highs Thursday, as stocks got a lift from shares of companies related to artificial intelligence and inflation data that met forecasts. All three major indexes rose, with the Dow adding 0.1%, the S&P 500 climbing 0.5%, and the Nasdaq gaining 0.9%. All three gained ground in February for the fourth month in a row. AI-related chipmaker NVIDIA advanced 2% and was the biggest boost to the S&P and Nasdaq, while smaller rival Advanced Micro Devices surged 9%. A report from the Commerce Department showed U.S. prices picked up in January in line with expectations, amid strong gains in the costs of services, while annual inflation was the smallest in 3 years. Reports on consumer and producer prices earlier in February, which pointed to stubborn inflation, had led investors to dial back expectations of rate cuts to June, including Bill Northey, Senior Investment Director with U.S. Bank Wealth Management.
Inflation now has been on a steady trajectory toward the Federal Reserve's target since the middle of 2022. And while the CPI and the personal consumption expenditures deflator that we saw this morning have been giving somewhat mixed results, indicating that the last mile of inflation may be somewhat more challenging to accomplish, the trend clearly remains in place and sets the stage for the Federal Reserve cutting interest rates sometime near the midpoint of this year.
Stocks on the move outside the technology sector included Boeing, which fell nearly 2% after a report of a probe by the Department of Justice. And Hormel Foods, the maker of Skippy peanut butter, jumped nearly 15% after topping first quarter sales and profit estimates.